Well, welcome everyone. Justin Burgess here, host of the Justin Burgess Podcast. Today I'm joined by Shawn Torres, CEO of In-Telecom Consulting. Shawn is not only a close friend, but someone I deeply admire in business. What stands out about him is his leadership style. He's never above rolling up his sleeves and working alongside his team. He's committed to both his company and the client experience, which is something I truly respect. As a producer in the insurance industry, I know firsthand how much support it takes to service clients effectively. While we're often seen as the face of the client relationship, the reality is that success comes from a team effort. Account executives, client advocates, and all support staff, they all play a crucial role. The best leaders understand this, and they step in when needed. For me, that might mean calling providers or helping employees navigate a tough situation. For Shawn, it means addressing challenges head-on and ensuring his company delivers on its promises. His leadership and company culture reflect that commitment, and I'm excited to dive into our conversation. So,
cool. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Shawn. Well, give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and telecom.
I guess I hold the title of CEO. My day is a lot different today than what it was, 4 years ago even. A lot more strategy and focusing on the business than as much in the business. Obviously, I'm still engaged day to day. I'm a sales guy by trade, so I miss some of the days of just being able to get out there and do a deal. Obviously, on a larger scale of things, I'm still engaged in, obviously, client relations when it comes to maintaining that relationship. But I'm 41. I've been doing this for 16 years. I've been with my wife for 21 years now, and we have 3 daughters that keep us pretty busy. Alexis, Addison, and Avery. And life's good, man. Got a great business. I work with some incredible people that I get to come to work every day with and watch them shine and do their thing. And it's just been, I don't know, I guess some days I got to wake up and pinch myself that this is all really happening.
Well, let's go. I'm going to read off some stats real quick. So 2009, $8,400. 2010, $64,000. 2011, $274,000. 2012, $1 million. 2018, $5 million. 2019, $8 million. 2022, $21 million. 2024, $31 million. And for 2024, we're projected about $41 million. Of those years, which one stands out to you as something that, we did it, or you remember,
10 million.
That was hard?
10 million. I was watching a video the other day, and they had a guy talking about building a company and how from 0 to 5 million, it's really hard. And I would 100% agree that from 0 to 5 is hard. And I would say from 5 to 10 is hard too. Not as hard, right? Because you're actually probably making something at that point and you're not working for free. But, I think once you get past that $10 million mark and you start striving towards 20, and obviously our run rate today is at 44, I mean, it does get not easier, I think, but what stands out to me is obviously Jimmy and I had set out a goal to be a $10 million company. And honestly, the biggest factor for me was I told myself and Jimmy that I would get a Rolex if I got to 10 million. And I just wanted a Rolex. And I had the money to buy a Rolex before that, obviously, right? But I just had set an objective for myself that I wouldn't do it until I hit 10 million. And that's kind of what was driving it. I thought it'd be cool, And then when you start to see some of the outcomes that are helping other people in your organization, and as you're scaling, that to me is what became the obsession, was watching the growth in people's careers and, having a really good job, making really good money. That is awesome.
Well, talk about the talent you had in the early years that set you guys up for success, because a lot of people, we do things ourselves. As me as a salesperson, I find that I'm doing a lot of things myself, but that's not a good use of my time. Talk about the investments you made in key people that helped you get to that $10 million number.
I think as you look at business and as you scale, I would think some of the mistakes that I made were not bringing in the right pieces at times, right? I think some pivotal moments on as you scale the business was one, Jimmy and I didn't have a background in technology. So everything we were doing, we were learning. watching YouTube videos. I didn't have family that was in IT. I didn't know IT. It was literally just going in and trying to figure it out, So, but it was always a good client experience, right? And I never really recognized how well we did with the client experience until as 2019, and we started looking at the business through a different lens and starting to really ask ourselves, like, why did people do business with us? Because we weren't the best techs, right? But we always made sure we delivered a good service to whatever we were providing for the client. So when you think about it, man, it's like going to eat at a restaurant. You could have the best food in the world, but if you got really bad service, you're probably not going to go back, right? We had probably mediocre results on what we were doing at the time, but we were offering an exceptional experience on delivering whatever service we're providing for that client. So I think that has a lot of attributes to what we were doing in the beginning stages. And then in 2011, we recognized that we wanted to grow the business, right? And really hit it hard that year. And Jimmy and I had saved up some money, and we made an investment in James Estopanol and came in to work with us, and I painted a vision to James of what I wanted to do. And I remember offering, I didn't even know how to offer a job to someone, We had friends that would come in and help us with jobs, but never really hired like a real technician or engineer that actually knew things. And James liked what we had to say, and we offered him a job, and I remember him coming back to me and saying, man, I can't work for that amount of money. Here's what I make today, but I'm willing to make an investment. And he did. And I promised him one thing, that I would be forever in debt to him if he helped us get this thing off the ground and help build out our voice product, which is ITC Cloud. And he did it. And I kept my word. He kept his word. He's still here today. He's an incredible guy. And
he's 10 plus years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just been, I guess, exponential into what we were trying to do at the time to help build the foundation that actually got the company to have a solid product set that we could sell and build stability. So from there, I would say we started just hiring people with experience. And, our industry is very labor intensive. So the more work you get, the more bodies you need, right? Until you get into some of the automation things that you get into at IT, so where you can build automation at scale. But in the beginning, obviously, from that perspective, it's no reason to build automation because you're just servicing clients and you want to service them fast and you want to turn things around in a quick manner. And I think those things are really what attributed to success, is just hiring the right people and bringing them in and focusing your time and energy as a leader on them and letting them do what they're really good at, and allowing, I don't know, I guess that's all saying delegate and elevate, So I've found the more that I've delegated out to handling certain aspects of the business that I may have had to handle at one time, but I couldn't afford to hire somebody to do that work at the time. So it's just like ladders of success, right? You go through these pillars where you go to no man's land for a little while, and you may bring gross margin or profitability down, but you're making an investment for what step you're trying to take here. And a lot of people, what I've found in business, and I've seen this with a lot of entrepreneurs, is they get in and I call it they play checkers instead of chess. And the biggest issue that they run into is they don't make investments early, and they elevate their life as the business elevates. I had an $8 million company. I was paying myself $88,000 a year because I knew that I needed to make investments into the business and the people around me. And I knew that that investment was an investment in my future and what I could get at in the long run. It's the same thing I do today at the same size and scale. I mean, I meet these owners that pay themselves these astronomical salaries, and it's like, that's why they end up having to take on private equity or some venture capital or investors, because they don't have the money it takes to grow, because it's expensive. You have to fund jobs. You have to fund employees. It ain't always going to go good, right?
Yeah, and you need a sales team.
You need a sales team to bring the pipeline. You're managing pipeline and working ahead. I mean, we're working ahead today. I'm not looking at what's happening in the month. I'm looking at what's going on in 2 months.
Well, as someone is in sales and employee benefits, I find that we sell ourselves because that's ultimately a person, like you're working with a guy. I've used the In-Telecom support team, and what really shines is when something's not working at that moment in time, that person that answers the phone, they acknowledge you, they're going to take care of you, and that's been the most for me. It's like y'all are in a complicated business that things go wrong all the time, but it's how you respond and the follow-up after.
Absolutely.
That's what I kind of, both our businesses are, we sell different things, but we both sell complicated things.
Well, it's things that we can't control, right?
Yes.
You might not be able to control what happens on an insurance claim that affects someone financially, that then you have to go to bat for that client, right? Or a renewal, or you didn't create the insurance plan. No. You're just the broker between the middle. And it's the same concept with me. Like, I don't know Microsoft, but I got to support and fix Microsoft solutions, and they break. And I didn't break them, and I don't want them to break. We want our clients to be stable, and sometimes it's just like having to figure those things out. And you think about our industry and how it evolves and changes so much.
Yeah, when you first started in telecom is not what you're doing today.
No.
With the cloud and those scanners. Let's talk about win-win-win for a second. What does that mean to you?
So, Jimmy and I have always been big into philanthropy and giving back to the community that we serve. I was in a fraternity with Jimmy, and we always had to do philanthropy through the fraternity, and got heavy in it. I actually was the philanthropy chair at one point, running all the events and doing all the fundraising for different things. And so when we opened up the Anytime Fitness, our first business, that we were giving money to all the schools and the volleyball team, the soccer team, the baseball team. Like, we just wanted to give back, even when we really didn't have the money to give back, And as In-Telecom started to grow, we just always felt like it was important for us to put money back into the community and serve organizations that are there, because without them in the community, like, we can't exist, right? So, in 2019, we were trying to figure out what our true core values were, because we always used integrity, excellence, and commitment. And I brought a consultant in, Matt Honey, who's an EOS implementer, and he told me my core values suck. And I was like, okay, and we did that years ago because it spelled out in telecom, and it was things that we really believed, right? So sitting down and trying to really define core values, he came to me and said, like, what is your passion and purpose? And what are the things that strive you to come in and do this every day? And I happened to be just like listening to music, and I was listening to that rap song, All I Do Is Win, and like brainstorming, trying to figure out a cool core value. And I was like, we love to donate and give back to the community. What about win-win-win? And everybody like stopped and looked at me in the room, and like Matt wrote it on the board. And I remember saying, like, man, it's, client wins, company wins, community wins. And the theory behind that was, like, if I deliver an exceptional service to the client and they win and they succeed and they grow and we build efficiency for them by using technology or the tools and the systems that we offer to them, the company wins because they're going to want to pay us, and then they're going to grow. And then when they grow, we grow. And that's what really grew this business, is partnering with those organizations that have growth. And then obviously the community wins in multiple ways, because not only does it allow us to give back to the community, it allows us to pay top-notch salaries. It allows us to pay 100% of insurance for our employees. It allows us to match on their 401k and give them a really good retirement. It allows us to pay for their gym memberships, and that feeds money back into the community. So it's all those things that when you think about, they go spend their money because they have extra income now, and they go eat at restaurants and they shop. And again, like, so that's really what win-win-win really was defining at the time, and still is today. It's still what we do. Jimmy and I had that nonprofit Community Wins, and I just did my annual presentation doing a 2024 State of the Company for the staff, and it was kind of enlightening to see that we put $170,000 back into the community just donating across the year. So it's been incredible, and that number, just looking at it over the past 3 years, has increased astronomically of what we get to do to give back to the community. So.
How do you feel as the culture has changed from when you first started to now? And you've said this on a couple interviews of just like since your growth, you're not personally meeting everybody. Now you have 2 offices. Now you have Texas. Like, how does it feel like from you as like born and raised in Slidell and all your people? Now you're getting to a point where you don't know everybody.
Look, man, I try to make it a part of my day to walk around and talk to people. And I was just walking through the office just now and introduced myself to a gentleman I never met that's been here, a few weeks. So I could tell you one thing, man. I do believe that I've been a good driver of good culture, and I've also been a driver of bad culture, right? So there were definitely times in my career coming through this, journey that I was also not the best for culture. Operating a business out of fear, seeing this astronomical payroll go up, and just being nervous and scared, right? Pushing people to limits and pushing myself to limits that were extremely uncomfortable. I think that there's also a reason on why we've continued to succeed as well. But I've also learned today that there is a way to deliver that message in a different way that you get more buy-in from your team and you don't burn bridges or relationships, and people are more bought in to what you're trying to create and what you're trying to do. And when you get those folks paddling in the same direction as you can go a lot faster. So I think that's why you even see some stalling in the beginning years going up and didn't scale as fast, is because of culture at times. Yeah. And it's ebbs and flows, right? It's kind of like, I look at it like a relationship, right? I've been with my wife 21 years. It ain't always pretty. No. Some days it's good, and some days it's like, oh, wow, this isn't good. So I think that, but I do believe that culture is the heartbeat of the organization. And if you build a good culture and you take care of your people and you work for them every day as a servant leader, like, the outcomes are much greater than being this guy that comes in and just wants to
see the bank account.
Yes. It's not about that, man. I mean, that's an outcome. That's a lag, right? I like to focus on leading indicators to drive my day, because outcomes happen in the end. It's like losing weight, right? Like, everybody wants to be in shape, but it's the work you put in that gets the outcome. Like, you can't focus on that. You got to focus on the fitness and what you eat and how you sleep to get to those results. Like, that's the key.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, me only being 2 years into sales, I'm building the habit of, like, salespeople versus non-salespeople have different personality traits, and we're in, like, stress because we see the long term of, like, a deal, but that deal may not happen, versus, like, non-salespeople, they come in, eat lunch at 12, go home at 5 o'clock, and they don't see the same mindset. So for you being a leader where you have you doing your thing, Jimmy does his thing, it kind of is a good, tick.
Oh man, it would have never gotten to what it did today without the two of us, because I had the ability to go continue to sell and he had the ability to execute. And then that's still what it is today, is you have to have the teams that can execute on both sides, because you can't do one without the other, right?
But I think you're a respected leader in the fact of you did the sales, which had generated, and there's a lot of CEOs out there, a lot of leaders that got to their position through different channels. And when you can see the end, or like if you hire a new sales guy today, I was in your shoes in 2009. Like,
I mean, I was probably in those shoes in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that, look, man, I love sales. I think that is an incredible career. I think that if you enjoy people and helping people and getting to meet new people, and it's incredible to watch the outcome of what you do for them, and watching you deliver things to them that maybe they didn't even think they needed, and watching what it does to deliver results for their business. Like, I think that's what really got me into wanting to do sales, was watching some of the outcome. Obviously, when I first got into it, man, it was big commission checks, dude. I'm not going to sit there and bullshit anybody. Like, it was like, I loved it. I was like, oh, shit, I get to talk to people and I can make $20,000 a month. That's exciting, right? And I was young. So, and I just worked at it, man. I wasn't always that good at it. And I had to get better. And I held myself accountable to understanding what – I'll never forget, man. And I had a guy ask me one day, we're working on building out a CRM. We didn't have a CRM, right? We just worked on spreadsheets, or I had a binder that I actually used that had baseball card slots. and I would put cards that I cold called on, and I would write notes on the card, and that was my CRM. And I would just fold the card based on zip code, and I would just work out of that. So like when I was making calls, I just would open my binder and flip through the pages, right? I had somebody tell me I needed to have a CRM, and I'm like, cool, all right. So we ended up going after and getting a CRM, and I had a consultant helping me build out the CRM, and in the CRM, it had the sales process. And he asked me, he says, so what's your sales process? And I remember looking at him like, I don't know, like I meet people, and I talk to them, and like we try to see if we can help them and go from there and give them a quote, and we sign it. He goes, yeah, but you're going to tell me you don't have a process? And I was like, he's like, you don't have a documented sales process. And I was like, no. He was shocked because of the size we were.
Yeah, we were successful.
We were successful. And like, it wasn't about that. It was just wanting to do good work. So he's like, man, why don't we sit down and let's create a sales process and let's go through your sales process. So it was really interesting as he interviewed me and asked me questions about certain things that happen at certain stages and what my thought process was behind it, like how it really developed our sales process. And I'm a big fan of Dave Curlin and follow his, baseball analogy of sales process. And I think that analogy allows us to really start to understand. And as you start to dig in, as you go through a transaction from start to finish, you really see what happened from home plate all the way back down to scoring, right? Or strike it out. What happened?
What went wrong?
Did I skip a stage? And like, I became obsessed with tracking every single transaction that I did. Nobody was asking me to track it. I was looking at it and saying, well, which stage did I miss? Did I miss this? Did I do this? Did I miss this process? And now today, like I've done so many, it's interesting, man. I can look at a rep today, ask them questions about the process and what went through it, and 100% you will see like pieces missed and outcomes of why they lost the deal. So I think when you start teaching sales professionals how to look at their own opportunities and understand what they missed, and you always miss. It's part of it, right? It's like you're not going to hit home runs every day, right? So what did you miss, and how do you go back? And it's okay sometimes to slow things down in a sales process from my perspective and bring it back to first base so I have an understanding of like, I need to get back in. Sometimes you have to tell the prospect that. It's okay. Like,
yeah, I missed
something. Like, can we have a conversation? I feel like I want to get through this, and then we can continue to move forward, And I think that's just what you have to do if you want to be an elite sales professional is continuously look at what you're doing over and over again. I look at it like bodybuilding, man. Bodybuilding's extremely hard. And you do this 24-week diet that you're getting in the utmost shape that you've ever thought your body could get into. And in the last couple of weeks, you're making all these changes and looking at what's working and manipulating food and water to see like what you look like after you do that. So it's just like, it's trial, right? And it's the same thing I think in sales. And I think sales, people's buying patterns change based on what's going on in the economy and the world and what changes happen. There's so many things that vary. So I think we live in a world today where people want immediate. Do they maybe not want to have a conversation? Maybe this person does. So you have to almost be a chameleon and be able to adapt to all these different areas to be successful.
We had a snow day that killed a week of sales.
And what do you do?
Yeah. Well, we brought up fitness, and I've lost 50 pounds recently in the last year, started doing CrossFit, and I think I'm posting a lot of gym content to LinkedIn, and people are actually liking it, which is kind of funny, but I think there's a direct correlation of like when people work with someone and they see they're successful, and it could be pickleball for all I care, but like when you're good at one thing, that translates into your sales process because of like, oh, if he's committed at pickleball, like he's got it figured out. And I think that's what makes good salespeople is that like you have to have a hobby outside of sales.
You have to. I think you have to be a highly driven individual, and I think one thing that I've learned about fitness is it's not always fun, and you don't always want to get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to the gym. You don't always want to have to go late in the evening if you had to miss that morning due to your situation or what's going on. But I think it creates discipline, And I think that the most successful salespeople are very disciplined because it is very easy to have a good month and let off the gas. It's very easy to have a good quarter and let off the gas. It's very easy to get defeated in a quarter and want to give up. So I think that if you think about your weight loss journey, is like it's a lifestyle. And I think being a sales professional, it is a lifestyle. And look, man, I'll tell you, like when I got extremely disciplined and lost all that weight and got into fitness heavy is really when I watched my business really scale. So I think it correlates to a routine of consistency. Yep. In sales, if you're not consistent,
it shows.
It shows.
It's like adding more weight. It's like you're back to your bad habits. And I've shared with you my personal numbers. The amount of revenue I've generated off of cold calls is tremendous, and I stopped doing it because I got busy. But then
everybody does, man. It's part of it. It's ebbs and flows, right? And I think that most sales reps get into a situation where they get so busy because you build up all this book of business, and then it's like, oh wow, like how do I do more prospecting? But if you don't make time for it, it's just like having a family and a career. And if you don't make time for the gym, like sometimes you just got to do it, man. Like I love when Andy Frisella says, like you got to turn your bitch voice off and just go. Because if you could make every excuse in the world on why I didn't prospect, I was too busy, it was a snow day, all these things. Like it ain't snowing in Texas. I think that the discipline of doing it and doing the hard stuff, and it's just like anything else, man. You get in what you put in. And if you go into your career, no matter if you're a tech, an accountant, a sales professional, and you pour into what you're doing, the outcomes can be whatever they want, right? People hire you to do a job, and they pay you to do a job. You grow when you do more than what you're expected, and that's when you really take off in whatever field you're doing in. And I don't think you have to be an entrepreneur. I think the world's turned into everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur. Like you can work for an organization and treat it as your own and really do very well in life.
Well, that's why I started building a brand of just myself, and I'm doing it because it's, I want to be known as the person in the industry. And I didn't share this with you, but I got a DM from an employer the other day that saw a video I posted on LinkedIn, and that was the biggest compliment that I ever received. I took a screenshot, sent it to my wife, and I said, this is why I've been making those silly videos in the front house or in the garage. Like it's working. But we've the sales process has changed over the years. Like early on when I got into insurance, it was like join a country club. Like that's where the CEOs hang. Like that's not the case anymore. We have to adapt our, Facebook messaging, and like people are not in the same place as they were.
And I think there's probably ways to get business there, but I think that I know a lot of successful people, man, and I can tell you this: a lot of them don't hang out at a country club. Yeah. They work. They're working because it's the direct results of what goes in. I'm a big fan of putting yourself out there and connecting with people and being vulnerable to ask questions and ask for help and surrounding yourself with people that are successful. And when you surround yourself with successful people, your problems become a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Right? I was in a peer group. I'll give you an example. I was in a CEO peer group. Great group of people. Incredible. Learned a lot. I realized that I was starting to become the biggest person in the room. I don't want to be the biggest person in the room. I love giving back and I love helping people, but I have a lot of goals and, things that I'm trying to accomplish, and I want to be in the room with bigger people. So I moved out of that group, and I'm actually going Sunday to Houston for my first meeting with this new group, and I'm the middle of the road kind of guy in the room, which I'm good with. I get to give some back, and I get to take some too as I continue to grow and scale my business, because the problems become a lot different. And it's hard for you to tell somebody when you're doing $4 million a month, I got this problem, and your business is doing $4 million a year.
Yeah,
it's just people say, "Oh, I wish I was doing that." Like, it's just different problems. They're all the same in a sense because it's all the same at scale, right? It just starts to, it's just numbers, man. I hate to say that. I got some friends that do $500 million. A friend that does $1 billion, and just ask them, like, man, what? It's the same.
But they were all that one. They were that 10 telecom in 2009 too. Like they had one location, correct, and now they got to 15.
And that's what it's about, man, is having those people around you to have those conversations and to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. And there's so much information out there today with LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all these things that, like, it's right there at your fingertips. I truly believe that anybody can do whatever they want to do. I wasn't always the smartest guy. If you would have told me that I was going to have a multi-million-dollar business when I was in my 20s, I'd have laughed at you. Like, I would have never thought that, And look, man, I think you go through these phases of, like, are you good enough for this?
Yeah, like, your head starts.
You get that imposter syndrome. That, like, man, am I ready for this? I recently had an employee that left, great guy, and he had made some comments to some other employees that I was in above my skis and way above my head, and I'd never run a company this size. The old me would have got pissed and probably called him and gave him a piece of my mind. But I called him because I do respect this guy, and I wanted to have a conversation with him about it and just, let him know that he's right, that I am in uncharted waters. But I know this. Last year, I was in uncharted waters. The year before that, I was in uncharted waters. I know that I'm willing to come in every day and give it my all and be there to support my team in any which way. And I'm also, if I was to look on paper what a CEO's job is, a CEO's job is to grow the business, remain profitable, create good culture, and put the right people in play so you can continue to grow. I've done a damn pretty good job at that. I've never not made money. I've never not grown. And I've been doing this this isn't a 5-year run. This is a 16-year run. So almost coming up on 2 decades. So I'm in control of the outcomes that happen to me, and I'm at the helm of the ship, and we're going to do it, And now I just got some kick-ass people around me that make the job way easier at this point, man.
But you've seen, like, we had Katrina in 2005, we had COVID, we have hurricanes nonstop. It's not an easy job running a business in Louisiana.
No.
We have something.
But I don't think it's an easy job running a business anywhere. I think running a business it's hard, man. It's not for everybody. That's why I try to tell people all the time. I have a lot of friends that say, man, I wish I worked for myself. And the thing about it is, man, is that 100% it is super rewarding. Don't get me wrong, right? I don't think everybody's built for it because I do know that it's scary and there's a lot of pressure because it's not just about providing for your family. Every decision and everything you do as a leader, especially at this size, is affecting people. And that weighs on you very heavily. And it's my responsibility as a leader to continue to provide growth to the people in the organization because that's what provides them opportunity. Yeah. So you're not working for yourself. You're working for them. And you should be. And you should be a servant leader to understand how do you make their world. Now, look, man, can I do everybody's job in this company today? No. I'm not an engineer. I don't know some of the technical things that we do today. I have no clue, man. We got some great guys that do know it very well. But it was my job to bring in the right people to build the foundation to get that there, right? Now, am I afraid to jump in and learn with them? Absolutely not. Am I willing to jump in and help overcome obstacles that runs in their way so they can do their job very well? Absolutely.
Well, I joined a producer networking group in a similar situation where calling older people with me asking for advice, and they've done it before, and it takes a lot to ask for help, and some people don't want to give it, but all the people that I'm a part of, they're very much receptive, and like, you're teaching me something on the social media side that I didn't know, and I'm in that imposter syndrome. Like, they got guys in my producer networking group with $10, $15 million books, and I'm under $1 million. I'm just like, They're like, I remember you when I was you. Just keep going. And that's the part that's like, you're going to get there one day.
But that's the key to surrounding yourself with it, man. And look, man, things like this don't happen overnight, right? Think about it, man. I've been doing this 16 years. That's a long time. And I look at, it feels like yesterday I was climbing around in ceilings pulling cable, and I laugh. It's awesome, man. And it's you have to enjoy the whole process and the journey and man, super scary times, especially in 2 years, not even breaking $100,000 in revenue, and two guys trying to live. Both with families. I mean, it was brutal, man. But I think back to that today, and I'm so glad that I didn't stop, because I look at what's been created because of it, and it's not just for me and what my family sees the fruits of the labor. It's a lot of the people that work here, that come to work every day, that I look at have built family friendships. They got people that are godparents of other people's children that work here because they started working here. So you think about a career and a job, like think about how many people you've met working somewhere and now you're their friend and you still talk to them to this day. Like that is created and like that is so impactful. I've watched people come into work here making $10 an hour pulling cable to running our cybersecurity division, and building a house and having children and building a family and being able to support that family based on what we put together. And like that's what really gets me excited today and have an understanding of like what we're doing. And it's way bigger than putting money in Shawn and Jimmy's pocket. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, Justin, I got more money than I ever thought I'd have in my whole life, man, right now. And I could sell this thing right now for a whole bunch of money. But I wouldn't get to do the fun things and watch people grow and watch new hires come in to the company and all those things. And people ask me, man, sell it, get your millions and go start something else. And I could. But why? I work with great people. I have great clients. I'm having a hell of a time at this point, man. And why would I stop? Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's long hours, long days. I travel. I'm away from my family. But I'm also making sacrifices, not just for Shannon and the girls. I'm making sacrifices for every single people that chose to work here at In-Telecom. And in my opinion, that's my job responsibility, is to ensure that they left their career and came to work here. If I cannot grow this business and offer them opportunity, then they're going to end up going somewhere else too.
Yeah, you don't want them to leave. People won't leave for culture. They'll leave for more money. But if someone offered me more money, I'd be like, well, your culture's not the same. I know what your Glassdoor reviews are like.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So think about that. Like that's the key to it all. And I think that's what builds success. And that's what makes me not want to stop, man. Like, I don't know. It's kind of at this point now, we've set out on a journey and to do what we want to do, and we're doing it. So I don't know. I'm having fun.
So I think both of us, like, we live vicariously through our clients. Like, we do a thing, but we get to go see them succeed and get to be in their business and deal with their problems, versus like I'm at a computer and spreadsheets all day.
You help people grow in the sense that, think about it, man. Every new hire that comes to work here,
we get to
loves our insurance, and they're like, man, you got a great benefit package. That's a perk of a career. Right? So think about it from that perspective. Like, you're providing that, so that allows people for recruitment and stability on their employees and staff. Like, that's the key. It's the same thing from our perspective, right? We're offering technology in a sense that we make people's jobs easier and keep them working and where they need to go. So those things are super important to your career. If I worked at a company and my computer never works and my phone doesn't work and it's not safe, and am I going to end up wanting to stay there? No. You help build stability and that growth. So all these components that go into, you think the why people choose a career path and where they work, like that's the component, right? It's not always the component, but again, it is.
And those, I've received a couple messages from your employees of like they were shocked when they got the benefits package, because it's something, don't want to give away all the secrets on camera, but it's very rewarding, because I think about when I was first in the insurance business, I wasn't making a lot of money. I think I was making like $39,000 a year. Average employers have deductibles of like $5,000, and you're telling someone like, here's your $39,000 job that you give you a $5,000 deductible, and if you go to the doctor, you're basically bankrupt. So what we have for In-Telecom, everybody loves it. It works. The math is perfect, and he pays 100%, and they get a benefit that is unmatched. So that's rewarding for me, because like a lot of times I'm delivering bad news, and then you come up to somebody that's like, hey, like, you're changing my life.
Think about when we did the acquisition in Texas, man, every single one of those employees got a pay raise.
Yeah. And they were happy. Normally it's acquisitions, and it's like, oh, the benefits are changing, and I got to deliver really good. I went out there, and that was normally those meetings are stressful, because it's like you're changing everything on them. And those are some good conversations, because they were just surprised by it. A lot of companies are changing benefits from 401k. They just
100%.
It's getting to a point where they can't afford it.
It gets expensive, man.
Yeah, and as you grow.
But I think that goes back to that win-win-win, man. If we continue to deliver good service to our clients, they'll continue to pay us. We continue to pay for insurance and be profitable and focus on those things, and you win. I think that's just the reality. Going into 2025, our focus this year and our motto is reach. And our service director, Matt, actually came up with the theme, and it's incredible when you think about reaching. And there's 4 pillars of our reach that we're looking to work on. One is people, 2 is process, 3 is products, and 4 is profits. So we're focusing on those 4 areas. Obviously, people's first, because if you focus on your people and you focus on process, 2 areas are what causes strain in any company: people or process. It's one or the other, right? Obviously, products are part of it, because we all sell a product, right? And then we're all striving for the profit, right? So thinking about reaching, we did this exercise with our staff where we had 2 pieces of tape on the table, and they wrote their name on one, and they had to go up to the wall and stand flat-footed and as high as you can put a piece of tape. Then you sat everybody back down, and you looked at them and said, I want you to write your name on the next piece of tape. Then they went up to the wall, same exact footing, same exact height, and said, we want you to see if you could just get that piece of tape a little bit higher. And every single person in the room put the tape on the wall higher than the first piece, with the same footing. And the difference with that is it's measuring, and it's looking at what you just did and reaching to improve it. And when I look at In-Telecom and I look at the business that really hit strides, that really made it grow, was when we really started looking at the process in EOS of looking at each quarter by quarter, and measuring. Because it's much easier to say, I'll never forget walking in the room, man, and telling my team we're going to do $10 million this year. And my VP of Finance, Angela, looked at me in the face and said, you are crazy. We just struggled to get to 8.5. There's no way we're going to do 10 million. And I remember sitting there and getting so frustrated, and I didn't care. That was the goal. That's what we were going to do. And guess what we did that year? 10 million.
I love the transparency too, because a lot of companies hide that from employees, but like, we're all in the business to succeed and make money.
We share all the financials with every staff member in the company, because in my opinion, they have to understand where the company's heading and what's going on. Who wants to work for a company that doesn't have visibility and an understanding of where they're going? Who doesn't? I mean, I would want to know if I'm working for a company that's kicking ass and growing. Like, it's funny. I had a guy tell me in an interview recently, he said he talked to a friend of his that works for a competitor of mine here in the New Orleans market. And look, I try to be friends with every competitor that's out there, because there's enough business for everybody. And the guy that works there was bad-mouthing the company. And I told the guy, I said, man, I just got to ask, man. And I pulled up numbers, and I showed him numbers, and I showed him the growth and employee headcount, 40% growth year over year, multiple years, 50% growth, 28% growth, 50% growth. I said, man, do you think that we do bad work if that's happening? Like, come on, man. Like, hey, have we had issues? Absolutely. We've grown a lot. It causes strain and problems. But that doesn't mean we're not working on them every day. And I'm not some ignorant CEO that stands back and looks at my P&L and says, oh, I'm making money and everything's great. I'm looking at the outcomes and the expectations of what's there. And it is important to me that we do deliver every single day. And Jimmy's doing the same thing. We're in it every day with our team. So I think that's the crucial part. You know, I had a conversation with a client the other day. His son's trying to get an internship in finance. He wants to get in the M&A world. And he asked if we had some work he could do this summer. He goes to Loyola. And I said, sure, man. I think I could put him alongside my CFO. We got another acquisition we're about to do. Let's look at it. And you know, I asked him. I said, how's my team been delivering? And he said, man, you know what? Like, y'all have some issues, but I will say, man, when I pick up the phone and I call your office, they know me by my name. They talk to me. They want to help me. They want to get it right. And at the end of the day, sometimes it may take a little longer, but it always gets done. And that's the key, man. Like, of course, it's technical. It's hard. You got level one techs that just want to help and fix it. Sometimes they stay on it too long. It's because they want to fix it. Yeah. So it's. I don't think any one of our employees ever comes to work and does things for the wrong reasons.
No,
right?
Malicious.
No, man. They just want to help. Yeah. And that's what's so great about watching the company and what they do and how they service the client. It's a joy, man. And to hear that, right? Like, and I even told, you know, Steven, I said, man, I'm making major investments in the company from a serviceability perspective to make sure that we continue to provide service. I'm not owned by private equity. I don't have any investors. It's me and Jimmy, and we're putting everything we have into this business every single day to be able to continue to strive and grow.
It's also training too, because sometimes like
absolutely
your employee says something that they really shouldn't have said, but that was their first time doing it.
They're learning.
I find that like I rely on my account executives and client advocates to help me, and I'm like, I cringe when I see that email, and maybe you go on to look at the ticket and be like, oh, I wouldn't have done that, but like they need to make that mistake
so they can learn. And mistakes that I made as a leader was, for years, would just jump down people's throat for making those mistakes, and then people become afraid to fail. It creates terrible culture, and it actually puts more tension on the business. But when people fail and you coach them and teach them how it should be done and just educate them on how it could have been done a little different and help them, like, it's much more receptive, right? It's kind of like having children, right? If my daughter brings home Fs, I can't just punish her and yell at her.
Yeah.
That's not going to change the fact and make her want to get A's. Should there be consequences? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Every action's got a consequence. But I think if you focus on having a conversation to get a true understanding of what's causing that person to not be able to understand that, and really focus your efforts and energy into it and coach them, that's when you see success. And that's when you see growth in people. And that's the job as a leader in this organization. We tell our leaders they have one job. It's called LMA. And everybody looks at me and says, LMA, what does LMA mean? Lead, manage, and accountability. Because accountability is a function of what we're doing. Because you have to be able to do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll share this. He knows this story, but we were once client relationships years ago, and I was fired. And I was paying for my mistake for over a year, and looking back on it, like, I was mad at the time, but I understand it now. And I've gotten more mature and realized, like, that's a part of business, and you have to be accountable and hold your actions.
That's also what got you the business back, too. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Because you never burned a bridge, man. And I learned that a long time ago. I'm the type of person that I've made a lot of mistakes in business, but I'm going to own them, and I'm going to work through them, even if it costs me money. But that's what creates longevity. And you may leave me, but you might come back, too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key. So
people always think the grass is greener on the other side, or like, you know, they don't realize like, oh, I needed that at that moment in my life. That's what I've always.
Yeah, sometimes you need a reality check, man. Like, we all got to get humbled at some point. I've been humbled a bunch of times, man.
You were my first phone call after I left my last gig, and I remember that call was like, should I do this? My wife's 3 months pregnant at the time, and you're like, yes, jump now. And I got off the. I knew already calling you. I knew what you were going to say, but like you needed someone to tell it to you. And looking at the revenue I've generated over the last 2 years, I'm like, that phone call I would never thought I would have.
If you have to question why you're jumping out the plane with no parachute, don't jump out the plane. I tell everybody that, man. I have friends call me all the time, and I hear them talking to me through how they want to start their business, and they have this and they have that, and I got a family, and I got this, and I got bills, and I get it, man. Like, I do too.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Like, I still have that right now. I mean, I think that you have to just realize that you have to be okay with jumping out the plane and building the parachute on the way down. And there is no plan B. I didn't have a plan B. I don't have rich parents. I don't have investors. I don't have a trust fund. I have what I can do and what I can control. And again, I truly believe that anybody can do anything they want to do if they want to put their head down and grind. But most people won't do it for the period of time that it takes to get to those results, man. They're not willing to feel the suffering and the pain for a little while to realize what comes on the other side of that is extraordinary. And again, it's not for everybody. And that's okay. Like, that's why you have entrepreneurs, and that's why you have people that are employees. And that's okay, because sometimes I wish I was an employee, that I just get to go home at night and not think about all the different things that are going on in my mind and go in these deep, dark rabbit holes of what's going to happen and the uncertainty. But I think that uncertainty, for me at least, it was what keeps me coming back, man. And I know that rent is due every day. And I got to come in, and I'm not complacent. And I've had a lot of people tell me, man, relax. No. I'm not going to relax.
It's a game.
Right.
It's a fun game. But you lose a lot more than you win.
Yes.
Well, any last statements for us employers? I watch it. A lot of my connections are CFOs, CEOs, HR people that are all managing their businesses, but I think you give a unique perspective to them of, like, anything you would tell them about.
Man, I would say if you're not working on yourself, you should be. Whether that be spiritually, whether that be business, whether that be fitness. You know, I think that, Colonel Hodges with State Police has a motto that he lives by, and it's faith, family, and fitness. And I think when those three things are aligned in your life, you can do a lot of things. And I think we all go through phases where one of them's not working. So I think that's the key that I see where most people get in these situations where they're having some struggles. And if you look back and you look at those three components, are those three components in alignment? And if they're in alignment, all this other stuff at work just kind of works out, man. You know, it's just my belief in it. And I think you should be doing self-development. And if you're not, you should.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate the time.